So pretty, so smart, such a waste of a...
Evil, and you could just have fun with what he was, you know, he would just say anything, and so he was a lot of fun for me to write. Yes?
Do you think it would be hard for you to write Breaking Dawn?
Breaking Dawn would be a tough one. That would be hard. But you know what? They're all hard. So yeah, it's writing is not easy, but it is immensely satisfying when you do it. Breaking Dawn would be tough, but there's going to be a good movie in it, I think.
Got another question from one of the middle schoolers. If you recalling when you were in middle school, were there any books that inspired you to become a writer? Were there any particular experiences you had as a reader that really inspired you to write? Were you always writing?
I was always writing. I got into writing in journals, diary. You know, I did a lot of that because I actually had a hard time at that time. You know, some stuff was going on, and I just had to get it out. And so I kept a lot of journals, and I still have them somewhere, just reams and reams of pages of just getting out what was going on inside. And that kind of led a lot to creative writing. So I actually took a lot of creative writing classes, started quite young. And even as a young kid, went and took classes at community colleges and things like that. And they were just some of the best experiences ever. You just kind of felt like I was at home when I was doing that.
And any books that inspired you?
Ooh, God, it's a tough one.
Really trying to sell books.
I know. I'm trying to remember. I remember reading. This is Jaws.
Jaws.
It was very compelling, I have to say. I remember reading it on the beach in Greece, and my family was on vacation, and it terrified me. But it was
so scary books even back then were.
It was, yeah, but I tend to, even now, I tend to like books that I tend to read a lot of books written by women. I don't know why that is, but I'm a huge Alice Hoffman fan, although I'm also a huge John Irving fan as well. John Irving is one of my favorite authors ever. Alice Hoffman, she wrote Practical Magic, which is a movie which is written tons of other books. I can relate to the ladies in their experience, I guess. Yes?
What's the hardest part of being a screenwriter?
The hardest part about being a screenwriter? I think the hardest part about being a screenwriter is when you have in front of you the blank piece of paper. It's not actually the writing part, it's the thinking part. When you decide what it is you're going to write. You start with, I have no ideas whatsoever. I'm sitting here in a bookstore, and someone's going to ask me to come up with a story. And from that point to the point of actually knowing what that story is that you're going to write, that's the hardest part. A lot of people have ideas like, oh, I have a great idea for a boy and his dog. Well, that's a little idea. To turn that into a story, to create his journey and all the characters around him and how to make that a compelling story, that's probably the hardest part. And that's, but when you find it, you know what the story is, it's a great feeling. It's a really great feeling, and then everything kind of comes out.
Right at the beginning of the book or the end of the book?
The movies. I write movies, but actually, you know what? It's like the middle. That's the hardest part. Because at the beginning, you always know there's going to be you're going to dive in. There's going to be some kind of action or event that happens. And the end, you're going to resolve that event or action. It's the middle. Like, how do you keep people interested in that middle section when they're kind of, whoever your characters are sort of exploring different parts of them, their story is. That's the hardest part, actually.
It's kind of a two-parter. I like Victoria a lot, and I like the ending of Twilight with her just walking away like that, leaving the door wide open. But this young lady read me a book, New Moon, and every night. Victoria kind of had this very powerful presence that was in the book, but it really wasn't talked too much about. And trying to pull that out, and I don't know if that's going to be added to the movie as much as it really was in the book. It was just she was very elusive. There was not a a lot of talk about her, just that she was very powerful, very special. And there was that trying to figure her out was very difficult. And trying to maintain that in the next movie, was it difficult, or did you like?
Actually, she's a lot of fun. That character is also a lot of fun to write for because she, like in James in the first movie, was just, you know, she's just so evil, and she's in New Moon, she's driven. She is just absolutely single-minded and driven for to get revenge for the death of her love. And so she does show up in New Moon, I think more than in the book. It's interesting, you know, Stephanie, when you're writing a book that's all from one person's perspective, you still have to know what everyone else is doing. You know, you can't just kind of guess. If they're going to show, they may only show up on page 350, but you have to know everything if you're a good writer and if you're telling a good story. You have to know everything that person is doing until they get there. So for me, it was, okay, she shows up in the book at this point, but hey, Steph, you know, what was she doing before that, and what was going on with her? And in the movie, we can bring some of that out more. So there's a lot of, I think it's a lot of, I guess you would call them in some of the Easter eggs. You know, there's a lot of going to be some things that are very much part of the mythology that are going to show up in the movie that you might not have seen in the book. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, any more questions?
Would you say it's harder writing something from a book or just like creating your own idea? Which one is harder?
I'm going to say creating your own idea, because it's again you're talking about, you know, when you just come up with your own idea, it's the page is much blanker. There's not when someone gives you a book, you already, even if you already have just even if all you have is a title, that's more than you have if you're creating it on your own. I got very lucky though with this book, because this book has some really great characters and great story. I have friends who've adapted other books that were did not easily translate into movies, so it becomes very complicated. But there's nothing harder than just inventing a story out of thin air. That's the hardest thing, I think, but also that can be the most satisfying, I think. Yeah?
What character most reminds you of yourself?
I think Bella does, because she's so insecure on one hand. She's really, you know, awkward and uncomfortable in her body, and she trips over things, but on the other hand, she knows what she wants. She knows exactly what she wants and who she wants. You know, she's very clear about that. And I think all of us have that side of ourselves. I definitely do, of going back and forth between, you know, just feeling completely awkward and uncomfortable in the world, and then, but also being very clear about, you know, what it is I want. And so I think Bella's a really relatable character, I think, to a lot of people. I think she's a very real character. Someone who actually works as a writer and someone who doesn't is someone who can get past, you know, someone who's willing to write really bad stuff. You have to be willing to just put absolute junk on the paper, and just know that you're eventually it's gonna turn good. And it's really, you're battling all those internal demons, and it's really hard. But the difference between someone who actually ends up being able to tell a story and those who just have the ideas, getting through that part, right? The dark night, the demons in the dark night, when you come out to the other side. And after a while, when you've done it enough times, you begin to trust a little bit more that you're going to get to the other side, because you've got through it enough times. But the demons don't ever completely go away. You just have to kind of, you know, you hear them and you go, yeah, well, and you know, you keep going. But I also have a really great circle of writers. I think one of the best things you can do for yourself as a writer is to have friends who also share the passion, and you have them read your things, and you read it out loud, you give each other notes, you give each other feedback. You know, working with, having that circle. I have a really great circle of friends. Daniel is one of them who he read all 3 of my scripts for Twilight, and it gave me feedback on every one, and that is invaluable. I recommend that to anyone who wants to write, to have a circle of friends, a writer's group. I have a writer's group I've had for almost 18 years.
Probably time for maybe 2 more questions.
Yes, sir. Oh, nobody? Okay.
as a writer, do you get to actually be there when you're filming? Do you travel with them the whole time, or?
You know, that varies wildly, but on these films I have not been terribly available. I've been, because I'm down here on Dexter, and they've been up in Oregon and now in Vancouver. I just went up there for a couple of days 2 weeks ago, and it was so exciting. It was really fun to see. I was there when they were filming the Volturi. Yeah, so I got to see them, and it was really, really exciting.
What was it like meeting the cast members? Like, were they a lot of fun?
They're great, and they're so perfect for those roles. They're just a lovely group of people. They really are. I'm a particular fan of Rob Pattinson. He's just really sweet. He's a really nice guy. He really is genuinely nice. I was good too. Yes.
Was there one point in your life when you knew that you wanted to be a writer, or did you just start kind of, or did?
I always, like, when I was your age, I was always just writing stuff in the journals or diaries, and I was just, sometimes I sit down and write like a short story. But it wasn't until I was about 27 or 8 that I realized that I could actually make a living doing it, that someone would pay me to do it, to write movies and television. I always watched television. I love, storytelling on television, and I love movies. But I didn't really get that that was a job. It's hard because I think people go to see movies and they think, oh, the actors are making it up, or the actor just took the book and started reading the lines, and it's so you begin to realize that's when I saw that, I was like, this is for me. This is exactly what I want to do, is tell stories for the screen and for audiences.
Of all the projects that you've ever had, which has been your favorite?
I'm on them now, the Twilight series and Dexter. I've been doing this for 17 years. It's a lot of projects, so these were definitely the ones. It's very gratifying to say that after 17 years, I'm now doing my very favorite thing ever. And both the thing that you learn as a screenwriter, or really any job in Hollywood, is, or really any creative endeavor, is when it's happening, you jump on it, and you can rest later. It's an amazing thing. It's an incredible thing. I wish it for all of you to actually make a living doing what you love to do, the thing that you would do for free if they weren't paying you. And that if someone actually, you can make a life out of it, and you get to do it for a living. That's I think I wish that for everybody, and it is possible. You can have absolutely what you want to do. You can have a job doing that. There's just nothing stopping you.
Thank you, Melissa, for coming to support the Wesley Book Fair. And go buy some books and